Hey y'all, hey, it's Big Bertha. Today's topic is stop lying about protective styles and tips for growing long hair. I don't have my normal styling tools because I'm in my man's apartment, so just bear with me. Also, disclaimer, after a long night of putting the baby to sleep, not the baby I'm holding onto, the other baby, I didn't start my hair until late at night, so if I look upset or unhappy, it's because I'm tired. No, scratch that. I'm exhausted. Y'all, my baby said, I'm not going to sleep tonight without a fight. Try me. Anyways, I'm starting off with freshly washed hair. I use TGIN's Moisture Rich Sulfate Free Shampoo and Curls Blueberry Bliss Reparative Hair Mask as my deep conditioner. I didn't have regular conditioner, so I used what I had on hand. Also, just a quick pro tip, don't pay full price for any hair products. Wait until Target or Ulta has like 25 to 50% off on hair products, then bulk buy. And even then, if it's still full price, it's not worth it most likely. I'm just saying. So for the braids, I used the Mixed Chicks leave-in conditioner, and then I also used the Mixed Chicks curl sculptor. I know that's not the best for braids, but those are the only products that I had on hand. For the styling tools, I used the Conair Curl Collective Curl 3 Curly Hair Comb and the Denman D90L Tangle Tamer Ultra. Again, I bought all of these products on sale. Like, seriously, don't pay full price for anything. And I'll be honest, I didn't initially like the Denman Tangle Tamer. I believe it's for someone with like a wavier curl texture, but after a few months of using it and properly sectioning my hair instead of trying to brush it all at once, I like it more as a shower brush than I do like a detangler, if that makes sense. But it's not my favorite. And then for the Conair comb, I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. I tolerate it for detangling in the shower because I have yet to find a better comb, but it sucks for parting. It was only $5, so it's still worth a try if you want. Lastly, before y'all come for my parting, I never said this was going to be a professional video. My parts are not straight because I was exhausted while filming this and I didn't feel like finding a rat tail comb. It was already super late and this style took me like an hour to do without breaking. So let's get into today's topic. Stop lying about protective styles plus tips for length retention. Based on the Naturally Curly website, protective styles are defined as ones that consist of the hair not being loose and where your ends are tucked away. So this includes braids, updos, twists, wigs, etc. Here's the thing, while all of those styles can be protective to the hair, I think a lot of black women misuse the term protective style. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if your style is so tight to the point that you notice every time you get a weave/wig you're losing your edges or have breakage, then that's not a protective style. If you're leaving a wig or weave in for months on end and not allowing your scalp to breathe, or you have a bunch of product buildup, then that's not a protective style. If your braids are so tight to the point that you're developing braid bumps, which by the way are caused by inflamed hair follicles, then that's not a protective style. Also with braids, your hair should not be parted in super small sections to the point where you have a small amount of hair holding onto the weight of a knee-length knotless braid. Do you expect your hair to gain muscle strength and become stronger by holding up the braid, or do you expect your hair to start to thin out and break by the weight of the quote-unquote protective style? What are you protecting? Your peace? Your time? Because it's not your hair. Why stress your hair and scalp out and then lie and say it's a protective style, when in reality it's actually hurting your hair's health? I know this topic is probably going in a whole other direction, but another lie we need to stop telling ourselves as black women is that our hair is super strong and that it can handle anything. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but that simply isn't true. Our hair is actually the weakest in comparison to straight and wavy hair because of all of the intricate twists, kinks, and curls. Each bend in the hair shaft represents a weak point, which means you should be treating your hair with more TLC instead of being rough and deeming someone as tender-headed just because they can't handle the roughness that shouldn't be there to begin with. I mean this especially for my type 4 girls. Stop being rough with your hair. Make sure your hair is properly moisturized while styling, and use tools that glide through the hair instead of tools that cause tangles. Also, while we're on the lies that black women tell each other, please stop being delusional and spreading lies about how relaxers helped your hair to grow. Hair relaxers are not healthy for you, and they do not help your hair to grow. A study by Lauren A. Wise titled Hair Relaxer Use and the Risk of Uterine Leiomyomata in African American Women showed that there's links between hair relaxers and the increased risk for uterine fibroids. A chemical that increases your risk of uterine cancer can in no way be healthy for your hair and scalp. As we all know, relaxers can cause burns and lesions on your scalp, which means that the chemicals from the relaxers are seeping into your bloodstream through those open wounds. Here's my logic. If relaxers were so good for your hair, why do you have to wear gloves to apply it? If it can't be in your hands, why can it touch your scalp? And if you don't believe me, then look it up yourself. As a chemist, I use this website called PubChem to see all the safety data information of compounds and chemicals that I use at work. I'll link PubChem in the description box below. Anyways, look up the ingredients used in relaxers and skip to the chemical safety section to see what it says. I gave you an example using formaldehyde, a common chemical found in relaxers. Formaldehyde is corrosive, meaning it causes irreversible alterations or damage in living tissues. It's an acute toxin, meaning a small amount of exposure poses significant adverse health effects that could show up now or years down the line. It's an irritant, meaning that it should not be in your skin or in your eyes. And lastly, it's a health hazard. Just look at the Globally Harmonized System, GHS for short, hazard statements for formaldehyde. You literally see nothing but danger, oral toxin, danger, dermal toxin, danger for inhalation. You shouldn't even breathe formaldehyde in. That's how bad it is. It is also suspected for genetic defects or mutagenesis and for being a carcinogen. So how can something that is clearly dangerous to living tissue be healthy for your hair or scalp? Make it make sense. And another thing, stop saying that blow drying your hair is healthier than air drying. Here's the thing, when you blow dry your hair, especially while it's wet, you're essentially frying and drying out your hair cuticle from the inside out, then wondering why it's damaged. But y'all don't call it heat damage, y'all call it heat train. My hair's not heat damage, it's heat train, girl. What is that? Think about this logically. If you're using heat to loosen the hair cuticle to the point where your hair texture and curl pattern is becoming looser, you're damaging the molecular bonds within it. Let me throw a little chemistry at you. Hair is made up of keratin. Keratin is a protein. Proteins can become denatured and misfold due to excessive heat. There is a threshold where proteins can refold properly after a bit of heat, but if that threshold is passed, then that protein is irreversibly denatured. Why? Because the protein lost the moisture holding the peptide bonds together, causing the protein to break apart. By the way, peptide bonds are just the building blocks for proteins. If this doesn't make sense, since I know chemistry isn't everyone's strong suit, think about when you're cooking meat. If I have raw chicken, which is a protein, and I use heat to cook it, or in other words, denature it so that it loses its moisture and the bonds start to break down, can I ever return that cooked chicken back to its raw state? No, because I denatured the bonds and removed the moisture and molecules holding the bonds together. So, in that same regard, when you're blow drying your hair, you're denaturing the keratin in your hair, and you're removing the moisture from the hair cuticle, causing the hair shaft to become damaged, dry, and brittle, leading to breakage. This is also why big chops are so important. I've seen so many people commenting about big chops being a scam by other jealous black women just so you'll cut your hair. No, honey, they're not scams. You're cutting off the damaged hair that literally will not revert back to its original state. The keratin in your hair will no longer properly refold, so it's just time to let it go. So now you may be wondering, well, Bertha, how do I straighten my hair without blow drying it? I'm going to warn you in advance, it will take more time and effort, but that's okay. This is all for the sake of your hair's health. So for me, when I straighten my hair, I stretch it first so that I don't need to blow dry it. The easiest method for me is to braid my hair into 2 cornrows while in the shower so that once it dries, it's in a stretched state. I'll insert a few pictures. I only do 2 braids, but I'm pretty sure if need be, if your hair is thicker than mine, by all means, braid more sections. You want to do cornrows specifically so that your roots are stretched. This method won't work with just regular plaits or braids. This method also takes a few days to fully dry, probably like 2 to 3 days max, but once it's fully dry, I instantly go from stretched hair to straightened hair without ever touching the blow dryer. Once those braids are completely dry, I literally unbraid and straighten it and I'm done. I've been doing this method for 3 years now, and my hair is the healthiest it's been after straightening it. My hair texture is 3C4A, but I'm pretty sure a person with type 4 hair could also use my method, but again, it'll just take more time, sectioning, love, and patience. By the way, here's my boyfriend coming in to annoy me. I promise we love each other, but I wasn't in the mood to play, so literally I'm joking around with them, acting like I'm annoyed. I'm not really annoyed though. Again, don't just take my word for it. Here's a picture of me blow drying my hair compared to not blow drying it before straightening it. Clearly, based on my hair's current health and length, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's move on to the next topic. How to retain your hair's length. I touched on a few points, but here's more. Number 1, aim to wash your hair at least once a week. Black women don't need to wash their hair multiple times a week because it'll just dry their hair out. But you also don't want to underwash your hair because then it'll lose its moisture and become dry, or you might get product buildup. The main goal is to avoid breakage. So if your hair is dry, it's more likely to get matted and tangled and then break off. Also, brush your hair from bottom to top. That way you can avoid tangles and damage. And avoid rubber bands at all costs. They cause nothing but tingles. Number 2, use low maintenance and low manipulation hairstyles. I remember being at the hair salon and one of the stylists said, it's always the girls with long hair that wear their hair up. And I thought about it and I was like, well, yeah, that logically makes sense because the less you manipulate and touch your hair, the less of a chance it has to break, the longer it grows, right? So use styles like protective styles, braids, twists, updos, etc. that aren't too tight but also prevents you from touching your hair too much. If you ask me personally, I think wigs are better than weaves, especially if the weave has a leave out, because then you're more likely to try to style the leave out to match the weave, and that defeats the purpose of low manipulation. Number 3, when styling your natural hair, use hot water in a spray bottle. I'm not talking about boiling hot, I'm just talking about like hotter than lukewarm. Do this especially if you have low porosity hair just like me. It helps to open the hair cuticle so you can allow moisture in and then use gel as a sealant to seal that moisture in. Number 4, use a soap pillow or a bonnet while sleeping. I personally use a pillowcase and sheets because my scalp sweats a lot at night, but to each their own. Just make sure you allow your hair to breathe, meaning if you wear a bonnet at night, take it off during the day. I know it's tempting to leave it on all day, especially if you're not going anywhere, but take it off and allow your scalp to breathe for a few hours. Last point, number 5, and I know some people will hate me for this, but please, 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 please trim your ends. What's the point of rocking damaged and unhealthy hair for the sake of length? It's not worth it, and all that damage is going to do is move up the hair shaft. So please cut damage when you see it. You'll see it a little bit later, but like I trimmed my ends because they were thinning, and I wouldn't really say they had a lot of damage, but for the most part they were uneven. I didn't like them. But if I did see split ends, best believe they were going to get cut. Well, that's all I have for today, so I'm just going to be quiet and let the rest of the video rock. Alright, so we're nearing the end of the video. But you know that moment when you've been braiding your hair all day and you're like, I could either leave this as bigger sections or smaller sections, but if I make it smaller sections, I'll be here longer? Oh yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just make them bigger sections, because at that point I was desperately tired and I just wanted to go to sleep. Anyways, I took a picture and video of what my braids looked like the next day after sleeping on a silk pillow and trimming about an inch or two off of braided hair. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye!